Welcome to Attican Plays Railway Empire. All right, hi, this is Attican and welcome to Railway Empire Back to Basics Open Mic. And I'm saying open mic meaning this is where we talk about some of the comments and questions that you've had in recent times here in watching my Railway Empire videos. I've done this in the past where I've kind of gone out and mentioned comments that others have made, and I called it sharing user contributions. Going to update the name a little bit and call it open mic. And even though it's really not, of course, because I'm the only one doing any talking, but that's not really true. You're doing talking too. It's just through the comments. And the other thing is I'm not going to try to name people who made the comments, but thank you all for all the great comments. And I wanted to start out actually with a big thank you. The other day, my daughter sent me a text and she said, "Dad, your peeps are so nice." And I thought, what in the world? Is she talking about my subscribers? So I texted back and said, "Do you mean my YouTube subscribers?" And she said, "Yes, they're also nice." And I just wanted to say thank you all for being so nice. I don't have this channel to make money. In fact, I can tell you that for the money I make from the ads from this channel, if that was my income, my wife would have to go out and get a really good job just for us to survive. There's no money here. I don't do it for the money. I do it because I enjoy it. And what I really enjoy is the interaction with you. It's kind of my social life, sad to say, particularly in this, this strange time of coronavirus. It's actually a replacement for a social life. And so thank you all for being so nice, sending so many comments. And there's two types. I really appreciate the thumbs up, the nice comments, and the great attitude you all have. But I also appreciate the comments where we talk about the things about the game, because I always learn from them. I think other people learn from reading them, and it's a great way for us to share information. So that's what I'm going to do in this video, is go through some things. I've kind of gone through the comments, recent comments, and picked out some things that people either have questions on or made comments about, and I want to kind of talk about a few of those. So let's talk about supply tower placement first. Number one, if those of you who've been around with me for a while now know that my favorite mistake is forgetting to place a supply tower, period. And that's one of the reasons during the first video in this Back to Basics series, I kept repeating the mantra of, get your stations, lay your track, set your put in your junctions at both ends, set your signals, put in your supply towers, and always do it in that order over and over until you have a repeating thing that you can do almost by habit. And that was also for my benefit, because I forget. I get caught up. Typically, I get caught up in one of two things: either thinking hard about how to get the scenario done and get a perfect score, because I'm just sort of obsessed with perfect scores, or I'm thinking about what I want to say to you. So I'm thinking about, what can I do here that would illustrate a point, and what point do I want to illustrate? And frankly, it gets me a little distracted sometimes. And I'll say this once, please forgive my voice for this video. Man, I'm struggling. I'm having a hard time finishing more than 2 or 3 sentences. All right, so supply towers. You need them along the run. Every train needs to be able to pick one up at opportune times, because you don't want them running out of supplies. It slows them down. It's not a good thing. So where do we put them? Well, the easiest thing is probably to think about basic lines, plop them in the middle, right? You put one, if I could do it, put one in the middle, and now trains running either direction will pick up the tower. But another way to do it, and this is a good practice, I think, particularly if you plan on running other things in there, like if we're going to run some corn into here and over there, whatever. A really good place to put your supply towers would be kind of near the end points, right? So like one on each end, so that you could go into either city and pick up supplies. But what I've suggest you do there is look at your junctions and go back one full block away. So if you're going to put it down here, don't put it in here somewhere, because now you're creating a short block and there's no point, no reason to do that. Just put it right there, right on top of that signal. And that's the other thing on supply towers, put them over a pair of signals. That way you're not, like if you put them here or here, again, you're making a short block. So put it like that. So if we put one there, one block away, that's a good entry point for anything that needs to come into Louisville. So if I wanted to run corn into Louisville, I mean, I could come this way, of course. But if I wanted to come this way, I want to probably swing around and catch that tower and join in, probably not at the tower, which is another one of my favorite mistakes, but maybe up here. Let me look at these signals. Seems like yeah, I've lost the signal here. There, you maybe join in up here, and those don't come out even. That's really weird. Well, it's not that weird, but you'd want to join up here to catch those supplies, and then you could do the same thing up here. Put one, one full block away from your junction out here, and now if you wanted to, you could catch the trains running this way. Could come in here, or something over here that wanted to come in could pick up those supplies right there. So that's supply tower placement. Now, another one I get a lot of comments about are elevations. And, do you care about having elevations, or the trade-offs between elevations and tunnels and bridges and the cost? So here's a good place to do it. We're at Knoxville, and we want to run a line to Louisville up here. Okay. Well, notice we've got a bridge here, and we're going along pretty well, which is some earthworks. And then we get here and look at this big old tunnel costing us $600,000. Now, you could build that tunnel late game and not even blink an eye when you've got millions and millions of dollars banked. But in playing scenarios, $600,000 is a lot of money, and they're over so fast. No way would I ever build this tunnel. So what we want to do is grab that and move it over so we soften this. So now the tunnel's much smaller. Notice we saved a ton of money, $400,000 or $500,000. All right. Well, I wouldn't even do this. I still don't like that tunnel. So I would click on that, and just clicking on it actually got rid of the tunnel, but it replaced it with this big long bridge. Because now we've got an elevation change here. So what we want to do is get rid of that bridge, like so. I click on the bridge. Now you can see the line is going away. Now there's a little bridge right there. I don't want that. I'll click there and just kind of move it around. This bridge you have to have. You have to have a bridge over this water. You could play with that. Notice it's $201,000. You could run it up here and make it a shorter bridge, but you're only saving $15,000, and I've got a big incline there. So let's talk about the inclines for a second. That grade is definitely going to slow your trains down. In the early game, like we're in 1830 here, and you've got grasshoppers running, maybe you've gone up to the John Bull or something, but you've got puny little trains. That's a big incline, and you would want to avoid that if you could. So here's a trade-off where I'd say, okay, I'd rather pay the extra $16,000 and have that tunnel and get rid of the incline in that case. So it's always a trade-off between the elevation, the performance of your train, and the cost. And I tend to go for cost, particularly early game, because the money matters. And we'll talk about that again on another topic here in a moment. So the other thing you could do now, we've got this line and we've only got one weak spot, that 6 and 7 degree incline where we used to have the tunnel. So what we can do is look at that and say, okay, well, if I do shift and click here and go down a little bit, notice it's turning into a, look at that, look at that, look at that. Now we've got ourselves, see, I can go down, you just drive down until you get the tunnel, then back off one. And now we've got a grade, we've got a line that's 0 and 2% grade. It's almost flat all the way, where we used to have a $800,000 line with a big tunnel. We've gotten rid of the tunnel. That created a big bridge. We've got rid of the bridge. And now we've got this nice flat line for $200,000. That's a nice line. So that's So basically, let's go back. It's a trade-off. Again, the main thing to understand, it's a trade-off between the cost at the time. Remember, the cost early game is much more of a factor than cost late game, right? Because you've got a lot of money and you don't mind building the tunnel. So it's the cost at the time of the game you're in versus the incline and the performance of your trains. You just have to learn how to balance that out. So let's just go ahead. I'll go ahead and finish this line, and I'll come back and we'll talk about another topic. Now let's talk about the terminal station. What does that mean? If we go here and we look at our stations, we've got small train station, large train station, terminal station. What is a terminal station? It's this guy right here, and it means just that. Terminal means end, and it's the end station. It's the end point of a line. There are no lines out this way. If we go into track construction, see there's nothing, you can't build out this way. Now, where is it good? Well, right here's a good case for it. We've got all these mountains behind Knoxville there, so this is a good place for one. Another great place would be on that West Coast map, San Francisco. I never think of it, but it would be a really good place to put one. In fact, it would be a really good place to put, if you wanted to use signaling control, a terminal station with signaling control. Put that in San Francisco, because then you don't have to worry about this back here having track, those auto signals coming out the back and taking up a lot of space, right? So I'm going to put that in there. So now we've got one, a standard station and a terminal station with signaling control right here. And I'm going to talk about the signaling control trade-offs. Well, let's just do it right now. So that's what a terminal station is, and the use for it in my mind. I almost never use them because I always want to have the flexibility of going in both directions. So like right here, say we'd put a terminal station here in Louisville going out that way. Well, what if I wanted to run track this way? I would cut myself off. So I don't use them, but they have very often. But they do have a very nice application. Right here in Knoxville will be a great application of it. And that's pretty neat looking right there. Two of those. If I'd line them up a little better, it'd be really neat looking. And San Francisco is a good case. And there are others where it's just tight. On the East Coast map, I bet you over here around New York somewhere, not really. I don't really see any other place where I would just really want a terminal station. I mean, you could put it at the end of the map, like Jacksonville. You could use them here, provided you were going to, if you knew everything was coming from up here, or you were going to use warehouses or whatever. Okay, so that's terminal stations. Now let's talk about the auto signals. People keep asking me, why don't you use the auto signal? I even have people with slightly smart-ass comments saying, it's 2020, we do have auto signals. Yes, I do know that. I don't use them very often because I like to control what's going on and the cost. And you could say, well, it's only, it's 100,000. Let's look at this. A regular train station is 100,000. A train station with signaling control is 120. It's only 20,000. I agree. That's only 20,000. But I don't typically use a train station either. I use a small train station to start out, and there is no small train station with signaling control. So I tend to use small stations as part of rapid expansion because I want to save as much money as possible. And let's talk about another topic that comes up. You want to have 2 stations in each city because that blocks out your competition. You want to put 2 stations because once there's 2 train stations in a city, that city's done. Nobody else can go there. And that's why you'll see me in rapid expansion. I will use 2 small train stations. I always put them in kind of back to back. Now those are regular train stations, but 2 small ones back to back, and that way I can run lines out either direction and block the city from my competitors. The other thing about the auto signal, and this is actually a question, I'm not sure how it's going to help do with the express lines, because an express line, a little bit we know about them, you need to have the fastest train on that line. And I believe, I don't know this for a fact, has anybody looked into this? if you start running this kind of stuff, where these trains can go into any of these platforms, are you commingling your express results for any train, like passenger lines you have coming running in here? Are you commingling them and losing out your express? I would tend to run regular stations like this with very dedicated platforms for different things, so I'm not commingling. But you are kind of commingling here, so I'm not sure. I'm not exact. That's a question. That's not here's the answer kind of deal. All right. Let's see. What do we want to talk about next? Oh, I do want to kind of finish off one more thought about the auto signaling. I've been asked by multiple people, should a beginner tend to use the auto signals rather than the normal stations because it's automatic here? Well, yes and no. Yeah, if you just run lines in here, you automatically have your junction set up, and you can automatically use this and probably avoid some of the details you have to do about potential log jams and stuff. But why wouldn't you want to do the more difficult one and learn it? You're not going to learn how to do it by avoiding it. That avoidance is not the way you learn something. There are things where avoidance makes perfect sense, but like avoiding war is usually a great idea. But avoiding doing something just because you don't understand it in a game is not a great idea. So you use the one that makes the most sense. Another one, by the way, you can absolutely use the terminal again, back to that not terminal, excuse me. Train station with signaling control for 120,000 is a perfectly good way to start. So you could go train station signaling control. Say we're starting in Atlanta, one here, one to Augusta, link it up, flip around backwards, use another one from Augusta to someplace else. But remember, if I've done that now in order to tie up Atlanta and Augusta, I have to build 4 stations. That's $480,000 versus 4 small stations, which is $160,000 to tie up those towns. So if you're close to your competitors, I would tend to put in small stations. Now, by the way, you can replace. You absolutely can. Like, say, we could go here. If we had lines set up, we could delete this station, replace it with a signaling control station, reconnect it, and all we do it just kind of in one fell swoop, so to speak, timely. The trains will remember their lines, and they'll just go right back to running into that new station, as long as you put it in the same spot timely. So keep that in mind, that you can go from a normal station to auto signal if you really want to. Okay, so enough about auto signaling. All right, so let's talk about how passengers flow and passengers and mail, how it flows. So let's look at Louisville. We've got Louisville connected to Knoxville, and we've got Louisville connected to Indianapolis, and then we've got Indianapolis connected to Toledo, right? So we've got this kind of straight line, Knoxville, sort of, so to speak. A, Knoxville, B, Louisville, C, Indianapolis, D, Toledo. Now, if we go down, let's take a look at Knoxville. In Knoxville, I keep showing you this. I keep showing you the demand and the freight because that's how you look at your city growth. And I'm basically a city growth player, so this is where I spend my time. But there's this whole world over here of express trains. And we can see right now, if we look at overall status, most of the people who want to travel out of Knoxville are going by coach because we don't have much train set up. In fact, I think we got nothing really, just one train maybe. And the mail, same thing by coach. So there's a tremendous opportunity there to grab stuff from Knoxville and make money on it. And then if we look at destinations, we see a lot of people in Knoxville want to go to Atlanta, 11 per week, but a lot want to go to Louisville, to Augusta, to Montgomery, to Charlotte, also to Toledo, and Indianapolis. So if you think of these, we've got 8 people want to go to Louisville, 5 want to go to Toledo, and 5 want to go to Jacksonville. Now, does that mean in order to get that business, we have to have a line from Knoxville to Louisville, and another line from Knoxville to Indianapolis, and another line from Knoxville to Toledo? No, it doesn't. what we can do is if we can get people from Toledo to Louisville, then they can go from Louisville to Indianapolis on our trains. And if they can get to Indianapolis, they can go from Indianapolis to Toledo on our trains. Same thing with mail. So the mail or passengers in Knoxville that want to go to Toledo can take our trains. They'll just take 1, 2, 3 trips to get there. Now, freight is completely different. But that's the basic idea with passenger lines. So you will not see me typically building, and big exception would be that mission over the Mississippi in the Back to Basics series, where I did something different and used Chicago as a transportation hub as our economic engine, and I ran train lines, passenger mail lines to like 6 different cities out of Chicago in order to get a whole bunch of traffic going in and out of the big city of Chicago on that particular map. So you could do that, but I don't typically do that. Again, I am a freight player. I'm a city builder, not a passenger guy. Now, let's talk about passenger mail and freight and stuff. And let's pretend on this map it's 1850 or 1870. And they kind of help us with that because we saw that we can put the cars in there. So if we take this guy right here, can I pause that? Yeah, I can. All right, when he rolls into this station, he's got so many passengers, so many mail. Now, if we put the dining car and the mail car on that guy, and then we watch him unload into the city, notice the money he made. That 18,403 included bonuses for having dining and mail on that train. Okay, so in the later times, the passenger mail becomes more attractive because of those cars and the bonuses you get. Plus, depending on your character, like the lady gets bonuses for passenger mail anyway, so she would certainly want those kind of things. Now, let's talk about what I think of as kind of like a 2-city cluster with pass-through warehouse, where I'm doing city growth, but I also want to maximize money between the 2 cities. And I want to show you one of those, and we'll talk about some more about the whole idea of setting up passenger mail lines versus automatic versus freight only. All right, so let's talk about adding passenger lines. Do we want passenger lines? Absolutely. It's good money. We want them. Now, I'm a city grower. That's my style of play, so I'm a freight guy for the most part. But you definitely want passenger lines. If you're playing as a lady, as we've said, absolutely. So what we would do here, now this is a 2-city cluster with a pass-through warehouse. And I'm not going to go into too much of the theory of the 2-city cluster of pass-through warehouse. I'll send you a link to the video that goes into it in great detail. But I first want to use this as an example to kind of show you. Well, first of all, let's do the passenger line. We could set up the passenger line here and just run it from the station in Toledo to the station in Grand Rapids. We would not want to do that because we're going to get a lot of traffic on here from all the freight that we're handling in the pass-through, and these are becoming large cities. So we would want a separate line. So what I've done is add a little small station here in Toledo, another one here in Grand Rapids, and I've got a direct line. Now I want you to notice I built bridges over where it had to cross this line, and I built a bridge, and it's hard to see it. Let me get it here, there. Built a bridge over that line to run it, and actually built a tunnel here over here. Now, notice that way the track is really truly dedicated to passengers. Now, why? Because the speed matters for passengers and mail, because you get more money when you get those passengers to the next station faster. And you want to get express status, you want to get them going fast. That's how you make good money on these things, so that these trains, see, that's got an express status, it's a full load, it's going to make really good money for us. So anyway, yes, you do want them, you want to add them. But what I typically do, like with this particular strategy, if my engine, my first growth engine, is a 2-city cluster with a pass-through warehouse, which it rarely is, because the warehouse setup is very difficult to do rapidly at the beginning of scenario. In fact, I go many scenarios where I never build a warehouse, never. Even though I'm kind of the warehouse guy because I did the whole series on them. But I will go entire times without ever touching warehouses. But I love them. They're great. They help you organize. They expand the capacity of each of the cities, but they don't fit all the time. But let's say we did do this. I would tend to start this out with an automatic line. So this line here, let's look at this line right here. That's going let's open this one up. It's going to Grand Rapids, to this warehouse, to Toledo, back to that warehouse. So what's it doing? If it's set up, I'm going to move it first of all. The way it would probably start would be automatic. On automatic, when I'm first starting out, it would say, okay, grab any manufactured goods in Grand Rapids, in this case probably the beer when we first started, that's needed in Toledo, and top yourself off with passengers and mail, and then go to this warehouse. Do you have any room left? If you do, grab something out of the warehouse that's needed in Toledo, take it over there, drop everything off, manufactured goods, passengers, mail, and goods out of the warehouse, and then do the reverse. Go to Toledo and say, what am I making here that they need in Grand Rapids? Take it. Grab passengers and mail, take it. Go to the warehouse. Got any more room? Grab something out of there, take it. Run a full train. And they'd keep running back and forth. As we grew, we would want to morph into this. We would want to go to a freight-only line for this because we need a lot of freight to move, and we're making more goods, and we need more demand for the goods out of our warehouse. So we would run freight-only. It would only pick up the manufactured goods out of the city. Then it would go here and top off with more freight from the warehouse and drop it all off and then reverse the process. So that would be kind of the way I'd go. And then when I morphed to freight only, then would be the time to put in a dedicated passenger mail line like this one over here. Let me accept that. Like this line over here, and run these passenger mail trains back and forth between these two. And I don't think I have maintenance on here, so let me fix that. So we don't have to look at maintenance problems all the time. Okay, and then I would run my passenger mail. And now I got the best of both worlds because I've got dedicated passenger mail lines making money, and I've got dedicated freight lines hauling all the freight and making these cities grow, which in turn makes my passenger mail lines more profitable. Okay, see how that works? Look at this. This is a warehouse that's connected to Toledo. And it connects to a warehouse connected to Grand Rapids. Well, look what I did for it. It's a freight line crossing a freight line, so to keep the money down, I built the somewhat ugly flat crossing here. Also ugly flat crossing here. And the real reason they're so ugly is because of the angle. If I'd swung out here and come more 90 degrees or 100, 90-degree angle to this, it would have been better. But it doesn't matter. I'm not after the pretty. I'm after the effective. And the effective here is save the cost of the bridges and tunnels and let these freight lines just cross each other with the flat crossings, and that'll work just fine. Now, I set these warehouses up. Well, the other thing I want to say is, okay, out of a city station, what's going to be pulled? Well, passenger mail line, of course, like these, only going to pull passenger mail. The ones that can take automatic will only take goods created in that city. It will not take goods out of a warehouse. Okay? It won't. It will only take goods out of that city. Conversely, the warehouse will only take goods that are in that warehouse or connected to that warehouse. It will not take manufactured goods from Toledo that are not specifically turned on over here in the city, in the warehouse. So I would have to have meat turned on in order for a train running out of this warehouse to take that meat anywhere. Okay? So a train coming out of a warehouse only takes stuff out of that warehouse. It will not take other stuff from a connected city. A train coming out of a city station will only take manufactured goods from that city station, passengers and mail from that city station, and a warehouse will not take passenger mail, period. Okay? Now, Now let's get into. So hopefully that shows you. You do want your passenger mail. You do want to add it. You do want it dedicated lines. You want it fast as it can be because that's where the money's coming from. The freight doesn't have to move so fast. It just has to get there in time. Right? That's the key. It has to be fast enough. Okay. Now let's talk about. Let's move on to another topic that's fairly complicated. Some of you are struggling with it. I still find myself messing it up occasionally. How many trains to run on a line? All right, we've got this young breeding where we have cattle. We know that Toledo has a meat industry that needs cattle. Now, how many? See, it's got 0. It needs 3.6 a week, right? Now, that's to, so it needs 3.6 to match the demand of this meat industry. See this? 3.6? Okay. So what we could do, there's a bunch of ways to look at this. One is we could look at growth, and I'm sorry, I can't, I just can't not build a museum. That's just against my nature. Same thing here. Museum has to go in. All right, you guys got to have museums. Okay, so where was I? Oh, so you got 3.6 cattle coming into Toledo at its current level. Now, we could look at that in a bunch of ways, but let's keep it simple for what we're really trying to talk about here. Let's say we want to account for growth, so we got 3.6. Let's round that to 4, and then let's double it. And now we say we need 8 cattle coming in. Now, why did I double? I doubled it to account for growth of Toledo and wherever it's connected to. See, it's supplying meat for Toledo and Grand Rapids. So we're going to say we want 8 cattle every 7 days. So 8 cattle every 7 days. Then we go out here to our source, our supply. Where is it? Over here. That's our demand. Now our supply, what we're going to do is we're going to set up the line and we're going to say run full out of young breeding. Now if we ran the car, it would be 7. We're going to run 8. You can do it either way. Depends on the time you're in and what you're trying to do. But here we go we're running full of cattle from the young breeding to Toledo. How long is it going to take us to run? So we have to add a locomotive to find out because each locomotive has a different speed. Each locomotive has a different pulling power, so they can handle the freight differently. So let's just run to Philadelphia like we're doing everything else. It doesn't matter. It's just for what we're trying to do here. All right, what we need to look at is this number right here. We have to hit the line. Let me go back. You have to hit the setup rail line and look at this. After you've added the train, it's going to take 33 days. So we know that we can haul 8. We can haul 8 every 33 days. We need 8 every 7 days. So this one actually works out very easily as far as the math. So what we do is take the 7 days, divide it into a week, divide it into the 33 days it's going to take the train to run one route, and round it up. So 7 times 5 is 35. So that's 5 times. So in a 33-day period, we're going to need 5 times the weekly amount. So that's 40. We're going to need 40 cattle to be delivered in the time it would take one train to run. Well, one train can deliver 8. So 8 into 40 is 5. We're back to the 5. So we need 5 trains to keep up with that demand. So did you follow that? You need 8 cattle every 7 days. We can supply 8 cattle every 33 days, so it's going to take, we would need 5 trains to arrive. We need 5 trains in order to hit that schedule where we've got one rolling in there every week. That's what it amounts to. So we would take that line, that one train we just did, and we would copy it 4 times, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that way we're confident that we've got enough cattle rolling into Toledo to keep it up with what it needs now and growth. Okay, so let's talk about running fruit into this warehouse and how would we know how many trains to run. I want to show you two ways to think of it. One is similar to what we just did with calculating the demand. Now here, our plan is to have the fruit supplied to Toledo and to Grand Rapids, okay? So what we're going to do is look at Toledo's demand for fruit, and that is 0.7. Then we're going to look at Grand Rapids' demand for fruit, and that is 0.7. So we add them together, 1.4. I would round that up to 2 to make it a nice even number. Then let's say we want more growth, so let's double it again. We don't have to. We could make it 3. We could leave it 2. It doesn't matter. Let's make it 4. So what we're going to want for fruit to satisfy those two cities is 4 fruit every 7 days, right? So now what we would do, if we wanted to be very precise, or more precise, we would set up our line, run it full to here, and we put a train on it, and then we would go back and open that up again and see it can run that, and it can make that run in a very fast 18 days. So it can give us 8 fruit into that warehouse in 18 days. We needed 4 every 7 days. So what I would do is divide 7 into 18. So the demand side time period is 7. The supply side is 18. 7 into 18 would be 3. That's the round up number, is 3. So I would take the 3 times the 4 demand that we have, which is 12. I need 12. Then I would divide the 8 that I can carry on each train into that number that we just calculated, 12, round that up, and that would be 2, and that tells me I need 2 trains to go there to keep up with the demand in that warehouse. So I could run 2 trains. So I've got 1, right? I've got, what am I doing here? I've got the 1 set up, so I would just copy that, and now I've got 2, and I'm ready to go. Now the other way I might do this, and I tend to do this a lot. And let's just do it with this one over here. I've got salt coming into the warehouse. So what I might do there is, let's say I wanted to limit it to 20 salt. So I'm going to run salt in there, turn it on, leave it at 20, right? And what I'm going to do here, this is the lazy way to do it, and it works okay. I'm going to run full salt into that, and I'm going to go put a train on it, and I'm not going to care about the route. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. What I'm going to do is just say I need 20, so I'm going to copy and copy. Now I've got 24 going into a 20. That means there's always going to be trains running over there when it's filled up. As soon as there's enough consumed, another train will go. Now, what happened here? This is another reason I don't use the automatic lines. You actually get traffic jams on the automatic lines that you don't get with normal lines, believe it or not. Now, where we got to, oh, it's cleared. There, it cleared itself. Yeah, you just get traffic jam. You get occasional traffic jams on these lines. It's just, I don't know. No comment. It cleared itself, so it's all cool. But now you can also see lots of traffic. Look at this, a lot of traffic going on here. By the way, I might consider, in a better design, I might consider the cattle coming in to Toledo on a dedicated line, or I might move it over here and run it in from the south. I might move it to the warehouse, potentially, take this and link it over here to the warehouse. That'd be easy to do, okay? So now did you get this one? I'm limiting it to 20. I'm running 3 trains, which will carry a total of 24. So the first 2 are going to run, and there's going to be 16 in there. Now the city's going to start consuming. As it consumes enough to open up 8 free slots, the 3rd train will run. And the idea is that there will always be a train kind of loading and ready to go. And as soon as the city, the warehouse has an opening, it'll take off and take some. That's a very unscientific way of doing it, okay? Now, the other thing is, just to show you quickly, since it's here, we would want to run a line between here and here. Why is that? Because we want to move stuff over here. So what we're going to need to do here is say, okay, run from the Toledo warehouse, which is 3, over to here. And then over here, we don't want you to bring anything back. You know, why isn't there anything there? Because I haven't turned them on up here. So I'm going to throw that line away for a second. go in here and turn on fruit at 20 and salt at 20. Okay. And then I'm going to set up my line that goes from here to here. And I'm going to tell it, when you come out of Grand Rapids, don't bring those back because you're getting them from another warehouse. So the idea of this train, and this is just a little bonus. See, it took a bunch of salt and some fruit, and it's going to take off. And we would run, and this one's harder to calculate. This is almost like feel. I'll just run a couple of trains for now. To carry the goods back and forth. And all it's doing is taking the goods out of this warehouse and moving them over here. And we've still got these trains that are running to move the goods in. And there's something. Why are we so slow? Oh, here we go. There had to be something. I'm missing signals right there. This train was waiting for no reason. Oh, and as a bonus, I wanted to show you an alternative way to, remember we ran the flat tracks here to cross? See how they're working just fine? Well, over here, it just is a bonus. This line here, I ran it down and connected it into this corn line, the corn that's going to that warehouse. And then I just let it run along the line for one block and then come off at another set of signals and come off like this to go over here to join in to go to this warehouse. And that's an alternative way to do your crossing, especially when they come in at kind of oblique angles like this. You can just hook them in, run them for at least a block so that you have a nice clean block in here, and then run them off, and you can go over here and do your merge and bring them over. So that's an alternative way to cross track, is just run along the track for a little bit and then come off. All right, so we've talked about a lot of stuff. Let's wrap this one up. I hope this has been helpful for you. I'm going to end this by saying, please keep up the comments. Please keep them coming. Hit the like button. It does help me grow the channel. It helps us get this out to more people who could use it, who are trying to play Railway Empire and maybe need a little help along the way. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it'll help you become a better player. I hope you'll like, comment, and subscribe, and join us for our next Railway Empire video. Thank you.